When did you realize that you were part of a family business as a kid? Like, was it something that you were born into? You never really questioned it, or was there a moment where you were like, "Oh, okay, hold on. We've got this entrepreneurship thing going on with our family. Like, it's kind of special. Other people's parents have normal jobs, and it's much less stressful, maybe." Or like, when did you have a clear moment of realization about this?
It's an interesting one because from as young as I can be, I remember being a part of a family business because at school we were always the kitchen family, and we're actually at that stage it was second generation because my grandfather actually brought it in, started it. So I remember being the kitchen family, and it was always this, and it was quite unique. I remember all the memories of going into the factories and doing the things you probably shouldn't be doing, driving the forklift and playing with all the sample swatches and doing the things that were all a bit of fun. So it was intrinsic in our nature from that regards. However, as being a part of the family business or being involved directly ourselves, I actually moved away from it. So I tried to avoid it. I think I went through one of those adolescent ages where I wanted to sort of create my own path. So I went and I did some little startups, admittedly with some family assistance, but completely out of the industry, so out of the kitchen industry and away from that. Took some learnings from that, ended up having to choose to go and study, I guess, for my own personal development. And then from that I went traveling and came back, and after a few different jobs ended up within the family business. So I guess I always felt a part. It's always felt like it's a family business and a family company. But I didn't necessarily feel a direct part of that as such until my involvement about 10 years ago.
And you're now sharing responsibilities in the business with, I believe, your brother, and I believe your father is still involved as well. Or how does it work right now for Amorini?
Yeah, no, good question. So I guess we've transitioned throughout different roles within the business to where we are. So it started off, I actually started sweeping floors in the warehouse. Nice. And we've all worked our way through. So we've all started, my brother and I both started in the factory, learning every facet of the business before moving through over, about the last decade. Right now, as the position sits, so our father, Stephen, is managing director, so effectively overseeing what we're doing. I'm general manager of sales and marketing, and my brother's general manager of operations, which by chance has, I guess it's eventuated that way. We couldn't have ever anticipated when we both went and did a marketing degree. I guess it was a fair risk that we're both going to end up moving down the same track between my brother and I, Mitchell, but we've ended up through opportunity, finding different paths within the business, enabling us both to work together side by side instead of trying to, follow the same path, which has been lucky.
Tell us what areas of the business, particularly you and Mitchell, have been looking at in terms of modernizing, digitalizing Amorini.
Of course, we've built a system which we call the Amorini Edge, and effectively it's a business management system, and it's continually evolving. And it's a hybrid of proprietary software designed specifically for the kitchen industry and some off-the-shelf software that we've brought in together as and then obviously created a hybrid version to suit our needs, but paired it together into this one management system that lets us go from the front end to the back end in a seamless integration, from the design component of a kitchen or a joinery aspect within the house, all the way to when the team are picking the components out the back end, sending it out the door. Which is really exciting, and it's a one process and one system, and it all integrates together. The next stage of that, and when I'm really excited where it's going, is going to be the introduction of RFID into our warehouse, and that will just take that next level of automation. I'm sure by 2030 there's probably going to be some robots picking doors and things too, and it's going to be cool to see the way that goes for the industry. But no,
I'd love a robot to come with my kitchen if that can be arranged. That would be the best part for me. Like, do the cooking, do the cleaning.
I saw one the other day that was putting all the things out of the dishwasher. So I've seen it happening. So they're trying it.
I'm always interested in social selling within the family setting, right? Like, so you and Mitchell probably quite aligned on what is necessary to be done with regards to developing something like Amorini Edge. Or like implementing technology, etc. that knowledge transfer, I think, like, in the family business, we often talk about the knowledge transfer from the older generation to the younger generation.
Yep.
But when it comes to some of the technologies that we see now, there's often a need for knowledge transfer from the younger generation to the older generation,
Yep.
because we've had the chance of being native, digital natives, etc.
Yep.
How did you experience that shift in potentially in your relationship, even with your father, and how did you manage that psychologically to teach him something, as opposed to the typical role of like him teaching you?
I believe that what we've done, which is unique and part of the Edge, is we've tried to simplify the process where possible.
Yeah.
And that was a direct relation to be able to get the correct data and the correct information back to Stephen and those we need to report to. So rather than have, obviously we can get as deep into the analytics as we need to within our systems, but it was about having transparent, accessible and accurate information that they could just look up and say, right, great, that's where we're at, that's where we're going, beautiful, I can see a trajectory, we're moving in the right direction, or, those sort of things. So it was the requirement to educate the older generation or the previous generation. It was the requirement to educate them on the systems that made us come up with a more simplified version. So we actually looked to, we spent a lot of money investigating really in-depth proprietary tailored software to suit our needs and all of these sort of things. And it became, I guess, the advent of cloud in the last few years and the way that that's expanded and the different softwares and plugins and things that you can utilize and third-party integrations has enabled us to really, in the last few years, take significant advancements in the simplification of our process.
Mm-hmm.
And we're tweaking it. I mean, only 6 months ago, we've brought a new CRM platform into the business, which is far more simplified than what was there, yet far more accurate, and everyone can access it now. And we've got digital dashboards and things on monitors around the offices that we never had. So the level of transparency within the business, not just from senior management, but all the way through to the team in the warehouse and everyone else, is terrific now, because we all know where we're at. We all know what support's needed. We know what people's workloads are. And this is the advent of continuing to look through software. So I think the most important part of the Edge is it's always evolving. It's an evolution. It's never one and the same. If the Edge, when I first started working with it about 8 years ago, when we started bringing it together, if that particular component was still the same now, we'd probably be out of business.
What are your future aspirations? I mean, aside from the obvious robots coming in that we just discussed, obviously, aside from the tech side, like, what are the aspirations that you share as a family now, and with regards to Amorini?
One of the biggest ones, and it's been drummed into us since we were young. So one of the ones is helping others grow, and the reason that's important to us is because I've got a young family coming through myself, not into the business. They're too young for that, but it's about helping those that work with us in different roles to grow, because that's what will continue the legacy, and that's what will continue that family business orientation. We're looking at, I guess, revolutionising the industry as we believe we're working towards, especially in Australia. So that legacy becomes more of a game changer. It's more about, do you remember when it used to look like this and it now looks like this? And that moment in time when it changes. And of all things, I genuinely believe COVID year in 2020 is one of those game changers for everyone in the industry, because you have to look internal. You have to look at ways you can optimize what you're already doing. You have to look at ways to simplify processes and to make it work, because it's a really difficult time for all of us. There's human resource concerns, there's personal health concerns, which is very, very important, and at the top of the list, making sure everyone's healthy, both physically and obviously mentally, with all the constraints, and supply chain issues. Significant
big
ones,
supply
right?
chain issues.
Big ones. When you're an importer wholesaler, that can have reverberations throughout the whole business. So it's a really interesting time, but one, I think this is the moment in time when if you can make it work now, if you can really get things working efficiently to their utmost now, when you are restricted, once the shackles are taken off, it's going to be a bit of fun.